Fine,
Good.
ma'am.
Mm.
Sir, we're ready to start. Sana will be moderating the session, so she'll briefly introduce all the panelists, and then we'll hand it over to Dennis, sir. So you can take over then after that, uh, howsoever you want the flow of the discussion to be.
Thank you.
Is that all right, sir?
Yes, yes, yes. Please go.
Okay, sir. Are we ready to start? Sana, you can start now.
All the panelists are there.
Uh,
Please
we're
check.
two are yet to arrive. Javed, sir, and Professor R.S. Kumar.
They'll be joining, right?
Yes, sir, we're trying to connect with them. So hopefully they will join in. In the meanwhile, we can start with the panelists. So we're not short on time later on.
Uh, can I start then?
Sir, should we start?
Yes, please. Okay.
Okay. Yes, Sana, please start.
Namaste and greetings. I, Sana Ansari, researcher at IMPRI, Impact and Policy Research Institute, Prabhav Evam Niti Anusandhan Sansthan, Nai Delhi. Extend my warmest welcome to you all to IMPRI Web Policy Talk. Today we are gathered here for IMPRI's 7th annual series of thematic deliberations and analysis for a union budget for the financial year 2026 and 27. As a part of the series, we will be engaging in a panel discussion on rural realities and union budget 2026 and 27. This discussion is organized by IMPRI Center for Habitat, Urban and Regional Studies under IMPRI Web Policy Talk series. I warmly welcome you all to this insightful deliberation and thank you all for joining today. The chair and moderator is Dr. J Dennis uh, Rajkumarji, Director, Economic and Politically Weekly Research Foundation, Mumbai, and visiting senior fellow at IMPRI. The today's panel experts include Professor R.S. Ghuman, Professor of Eminence, Punjab School of Economics, Guru Nanak Dev University, Amritsar, visiting Professor Impri, and Dr. Javed Alam Khan Ji, Senior Fellow, Center for Budget and Governance, Accountability, and visiting Senior Fellow at Impri. Professor Gummadi Sridevi Ji, Professor, School of Economics, University of Hyderabad, and visiting Professor Impri. Ms. Purvi Thangaraj Ji, Policy Researcher, Indian Council for Research on International Economic Relations, and Dr. A. Amarender Reddy Ji, Joint Director, Policy Support Research, ICRA, National Institute of Biotic Stress Management, and visiting senior fellow at IMPRI. Professor C.S.C. Sekhar Ji, Professor, Institute of Economic Growth, New Delhi. The convenience of this program are Dr. Simi Mehta Ji and Dr. Arjun Kumar Ji. To begin today's discussion, I'm honored to invite our chair, Dr. J. Dennis Rajakumar Ji, chair and moderator, to share his opening remarks. We warmly welcome you, sir, and over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sana. Uh, uh, Friends, we are back after 1 year. Um, Last year also we had a panel discussion on the same topic, rural realities, but on Union Budget 2025-26. We discussed lots of points, and I also see few panelists who are present today were also present on the other day. So it's time that we also have a kind of reflection on what we discussed and how things progressed in the course of last 1 year. And also, it is time that we look forward using the Union Budget 2026-27 and its proposals for rural development per se to uh, develop a perspective as to how the rural India will unfold itself in the days to come. Now, having said that, um, let me provide a brief background on the on few aspects of rural India as we see it today. The first and foremost point is about the employment. Right now, we are having a PLFS annual report up to 2023-24, according to which the unemployment rate, that is proportion of population within the labor force remaining unemployed, within the age group of 15 years to 59 years, seem to have dropped in 2023-24 to 3.5%, from 6.5% reported in 2017-18. That's the first year of PLFS. And compared to 4.6% reported in the COVID year 2020-21. Now, when I see the quarterly report also, I notice that this decline is being noticed, though the magnitude has varied. For instance, in April, June, unemployment rate stood at 4.8%, which dropped to 4.4% in the following quarter. Now, we do not have more statistics for the latest quarter, that is October, December 2025. But in any case, looking at the trend, we notice that rural unemployment has been dropping. Now, this is a very important piece of information, because this will link it to a major development that we had been seeing in the last 2 months, that's affecting the lifeline of rural sector per se. Second aspect is about the output. Now, we, as you know, one major lacuna in our statistical system is we do not capture the output in terms of urban sector and rural sector. At the same time, we have to guess what is happening to rural sectors based on some sectoral performance, which is directly linked, or which has a larger proportionate share originating from rural sector. So obviously we are talking of agriculture and allied activities, which on an average during the last 5 years, in constant value terms, it has reported a growth rate of 4.4%, which is slightly less compared to the overall GDP growth rate. However, one important point is there has been some upward tendency in the last 1 or 2 years with respect to the growth of agriculture sector. Now, coming to the budget allocation for the year 2025-26, we have broadly two major ministries which have enormous influence on the rural livelihood. One is Ministry of Rural Development, another one is Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare. If you see the allocation for agriculture and farmers welfare, allocation stands at 1.63 lakh crore, or 1.6 trillion rupees. Or if you and Ministry of Rural Development will receive about 2.73 lakh crore under the budget 2026-27. So if you take the combined budget allocation, it stands at 4.36 lakh crore, which is quite substantial. And as the Minister of Rural Development said, combined allocation is far more higher. I think it is higher by about 21% over the last budget. And there are lots of, and if you see the food subsidy and fertilizer subsidy, there again, under fertilizer subsidy, the increase is not much, but still it stands at 1.7 crore. And food subsidy, it stands at 2.2 crore. So if you put everything, because all of them have an influence on the rural sector, we are looking at a major proportion of budget being allocated to rural sector, but it's not anything new. That's very important. It is a process, because all of us know that 46% of employment in our country is still dependent on rural sector, right? Now, how the money is going to be spent, there will be continuity on the insofar as ongoing program is concerned. At the same time, budget also in line with economic survey, has taken cognizance of some of the recent developments taking place in technology front and how to benefit from it insofar as agriculture is concerned. So we'll find some kind of new programs being announced in the budget. Particularly, we are talking about that Bharat Vistar, that is virtually integrated system to access agricultural resources. In my view, this is a, a great step taken by the government. Of course, I see a lot of continuity here also of the existing activities, but somehow integrating IoT, that is Internet of Things, into agriculture with the help of ICAR, right? That is going to help the farmers, which is limited, whose practical application is limited to a larger extent. But I'm sure that with these kind of initiatives, lots of farmers will benefit out of these kind of initiatives, which are insofar as detection of soil health, disease, and optimization of water resource is concerned. Moreover, since stock process will be also integrated, and we would expect out of this a better and efficient price discovery. I have seen a couple of papers that is from NABARD, and they do talk about how IoT has benefited farmers and has improved agriculture productivity. Because of this, farmers are in a position to understand soil health, detect diseases, and optimize the use of water as well as pesticides. Right. So there is a lot of things happening in agriculture. So some of these AI powered platforms, whatever the budget is aiming at to integrate with agriculture and allied activities, right, will definitely have an impact. Moreover, I think after a long time, the budget also has acknowledged the importance of uh, you know, some of these cash crops like coconut, sandalwood, cashew, cocoa for the coastal ones, as well as a variety of dry fruits like walnuts, almonds for hilly regions. So these are all going to improve the livelihood, no doubt about it. Now, but more importantly, having said all this, more importantly, what needs to be taken cognizance uh, um, at this point uh, is about the rural employment guarantee scheme. Now we know that the whole program had been revamped and a new act has come in the place of Norega, with center state participation being redefined. Now it stands at 60 and 40% is the ratio we are looking at. There has been budget allocation to that. And we are actually seeing that Norega will, the new scheme, right, Ramji, as they call it, G-Ramji, right, as they call it, will receive about 95,000 crore. On the top of it, the Nurega scheme will get about 30,000 crore. So together we are looking at 1.25 lakh crore. Now, to what the question that I will actually pose to the panelist is, if it would be better if you reflect on these aspects, which is also a major concern, and there are a lot of criticisms leveled against whether it is appropriate to move to this new employment guaranteed scheme, under which there will be a lot more burden uh, on the state, as well as since it is going to be a kind of target based one, what is the impact it will have on the rural sector? whether the mandated 125 days, right, and the number of card holders, which in the year 2025-26 seem to have come down by about 38 lakh. So what is going to be the scenario that we are going to envisage insofar as the rural employment guarantee scheme is concerned, which I'm sure has remained lifeline of rural sector over the last decade. So with these few preliminary observations and without taking more time, let me actually open the discussion. Let us have the speakers in the same order as given in the invitation. So may I now call Professor C.S.C. Sekhar to give his thoughts on this. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Rajkumar. Am I visible? I think visible and
Yes,
audible.
yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Rajkumar, for actually you have laid the ground very well, and you have covered almost all the main points. So I would like to focus on the rural economy as in its entirety, in the sense that I want to look at the budgetary allocations and also how the previous allocations have been made use of in the particularly in the ministries of agriculture, rural development. Those are very important, but also animal husbandry, dairying, and fisheries. That is another important ministry that I will be talking about briefly, and food processing and cooperation, which is a more recent addition to our list of ministries, important ministries. When we look at the various schemes in agriculture and also the major programs, what I find is the revised estimates are much lower than the budgetary estimates for most of the programs and schemes in agriculture. And this to me has been is a worrying factor, and this has been a trend for the last few budgets also. In fact, I may have made the same point last time also. So why is this important? Because what this means is that when your revised estimates are lower, much lower in some cases than the budgetary estimates, what it means is that you have not been able to make use of the budgetary allocation. It implies two things. One, if the budgetary allocation is say 100 rupees and you have actually done the work using only 50 rupees, then you have shown a lot of productivity improvement. But if you have not been able to complete the tasks that have been done and you have only made use of 50 rupees, then so this is peculiar to agriculture ministry. Actually, if you see, look at across other ministries like rural development, the food processing, other things, the revised estimates are not so low. So this is one important issue which researchers have to delve into, and also the ministries will have to look into, particularly the agriculture ministry will have to look into. And turning to rural development ministry is a large ministry. It has a lot of budgetary allocation, as Dr. Rajkumar has mentioned. It has 2.73 crores vis-a-vis almost 1.6 lakh crores for agriculture ministry. Even here, the rural development ministry also, the revised estimates are this year are lower than the budgetary estimates, but the current budgetary provisions have made in line with the last budgetary. They have not been changed in accordance with what is actually spent. Whereas in case of agriculture ministry, what they have done is, because the expenditure has been low, so the current allocations have also been correspondingly lowered in the Ministry of Agriculture. I think that's something that needs to be looked into carefully by researchers as well as the policymakers. Then animal husbandry, dairying and fisheries, the food processing and cooperation are on the same lines as rural development ministry, although in some cases the actual expenditure is lower than what has been budgeted, but their allocations have not been tampered with, or they have not been tinkered with. So that's a good development. Now coming to the new initiatives in the budget, As the Dr. Rajkumar has rightly mentioned, the focus on high value agriculture is a welcome step for coconut, sandalwood, cocoa, and cashew in this budget. The second important thing is Bharat Vistar, which he has again mentioned, actually making a conjunctive use of AgriStack and also the ICAR package of practices for providing customized solutions to farmers. Of course, this is a very good, very nice idea. How it actually translates into action is something that we'll have to wait and see. And going to Animal Husbandry Ministry, there are a few important initiatives that have been announced, which is credit-linked subsidies for beneficiaries and beneficiary farmers, that is, and loan-linked capital subsidies for investment. This is another important thing in the animal husbandry section. And livestock farmer producer organizations. So far, we have been focusing mostly on the crop sector FPOs, but now they also want to put some emphasis on the livestock FPOs. That's a good thing. The fisheries sector, the easy fishing has been made duty free. The exclusive economic zone fishing has been made duty free, and that's very good development for fishermen. And 500 reservoirs and Amrit Sarovars are sought to be developed in the coastal regions. This is again good. And another important thing in the rural sector is the She Mart for rural entrepreneurs. This is basically a retail self-help community-owned retail outlets by rural women who form self-help groups. And this is, I believe, is a part of the NRLM program under the Rural Development Ministry. But here I have one issue, because when I was a part of the Rural Development Ministry a couple of years ago for the Common Review Mission, which is basically an independent expert group which actually looks at various schemes of Rural Development Ministry, we found that most of the NRLM activities, the self-help group activities, are not aligned with the local production patterns. That is, if a place has, say, advantage, it is pulse growing area, then the SHGs should focus, they're better off focusing on dal mills and stuff like that, but they are doing completely different activities. So activities by self-help groups which are not aligned with the local production patterns is not it may not be sustainable in my. The last thing which I want to touch upon is the cooperative sector. I think in this budget, there is a lot of emphasis on the cooperative sector, mostly in the form of exemptions, tax exemptions, and other such incentives. First is a dividend distributed to members has been made tax-free. This is a good thing for FPOs and also cooperatives. And then there is a 3-year tax exemption on dividend income from investments made by National Cooperative Federation. That is, if a National Cooperative Federation makes any investment and whatever dividend they earn on that, and if they distribute that dividend income among their members, then that is made tax-free. That's a 3-year tax exemption. That's very good. And there's a tax exemption for cattle feed and cotton. Earlier, the tax exemption was only limited to dairy and other products which are produced by the members and sold by the members of the FPO. Now, the exemption has been extended to cattle feed and cotton. This is another good thing. And 450 crores grants in aid has been provided to National Cooperative Exports Limited. This is a sort of a public cooperative exports entity. And this grant is mainly to make it competitive vis-a-vis larger export private exporters. So but in conclusion, what I find is that there are no major initiatives except for Bharat Vistar and cooperative sector. All the other are either extensions of the earlier things and very minor incremental additions. And particularly what I find particularly lacking is, as Dr. Rajkumar has mentioned, there's a lot of the work participation rate of women has increased in agriculture. Recently, according to the recent estimates, I think the WPR of rural females aged 15 years and above has gone up from 23.7% in 2017-18, according to the BLFS data, to nearly 46.5% in 2023-24. That is almost, it has doubled in a matter of 6 years. And most of these new rural female workers have entered agriculture. And as per a recent Niti Aayog estimate, the household helpers who are unpaid family female workers is roughly around 105 million. That's a large chunk of rural population. So if so many women are entering agriculture, and there is research. In fact, we have done Dr. Arif and myself have done a paper in EPW where we have shown that the female households with unpaid female family labor who are actually, they are contributing a lot to the household income, and they are no less productive than paid female workers. So similar research has come out from Professor Golder, Suresh Agarwal, and others. So the main point is, if so many women are entering and they are no less productive than their counterparts who are working in other sectors, then there should have been some initiatives aimed at increasing or facilitating these women who are in agriculture. So with that, I'll stop. And one small thing which the chair mentioned about the G Ramji versus Manrega, I think the jury is still out, because even in Mahatma Gandhi and Narega, we have not been able to achieve even 100 days. The average number of days is 50. So increasing it to 125, how is it going to help us? Will it help us in the long run? And secondly, for making it converting it from a demand driven program to something which is a target driven program is it appears a little tricky at this stage to answer. Maybe we'll need a little more data. Yeah, with that I'll stop. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Sekhar. Now, can we move on to Professor R.S. Ghuman?
Thank you, Chair, and obliged to IMPRI and organizers. Let me start from a lighter note. India is a diverse country, and that diversity and weather variation is visible from the clothes we are wearing. That's one. Second, cooperatives is very, very important, no doubt, for the development of rural areas. The chair, I have certain structured views about the macro rural economic framework. Everybody knows that agriculture is still the backbone of rural economy, though its share has gone down, but employment is very sticky. That's one statement I want to know. And my considered opinion is that road to Viksit Bharat goes through agriculture and rural economy. Until and unless we boost agriculture and rural economy, it's just not possible to have Viksit Bharat. My argument here is that everybody, the FM has taken the Sankalp and 3 Kartavyas. And those Kartavyas are accelerate and sustain economic growth, fulfill people's aspirations, and ensure access of basic services to all. In other words, these 3 Kartavyas unfold the roadmap to Viksit Bharat, which is akin to Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, or inclusive, faster, and sustainable development. However, the pathway to the three-pronged Sankalp goes through the commensurate and diversified development of agriculture and rural economy, as a large majority of Indian population still lives in villages, and agriculture continues to be their mainstay of employment, income, and livelihood. As per 2011 population census, nearly 69% of India's population lived in rural area, and Certainly, it is not going to fall below 63%, even in the new census. And by 2050, India is still going to be, estimates are like this, that India is still going to have more than 50% of its population in the rural areas. In the backdrop of this, it needs to be acknowledged that besides providing direct employment to 46% of the workforce, agriculture provides indirect employment, which often is ignored while talking of the role of agriculture. And that is indirect employment is very, very sizable. Number of workers engaged in industries and activities using agriculture produce as inputs. Similarly, there are a good number of industries and business activities whose output is being used in agricultural operations. The workforce engaged in agriculture and population dependent thereon also provides market for the product of numerous industries and business activities. Thus, agriculture is also providing much needed food security as well. However, the economic position of huge workforce and population engaged in agriculture and rural economy would continue to wield a significant influence on the demand for non-farm produce and in turn on the income and employment in the non-farm sectors. In other words, higher income in the farm sector and rural economy would have higher multiplier effect on the non-farm income and thereby on the overall growth rate of the economy. Evidently, there are strong backward and forward linkages between the farm and non-farm sectors, which are visible from the input-output tables. Now, ironically, a very high proportion of agricultural workforce is either underemployed or disguisedly unemployed, and agriculture is pushing them out. However, the system and policy makers have no mechanism to address this challenge. The problem gets worse as the non-farm sector is not capable to generate enough employment for surplus workforce in agriculture, mainly because of jobless growth. Some people say it job loss growth, or some say jobless growth. Consequently, agriculture and rural economy are lagging behind the non-farm sectors in terms of per worker productivity and per capita income. Currently, the share of agriculture in gross domestic product of India is merely 50%, which means 46% of agricultural workforce is sharing 15% of the GDP. The average per capita annual income of agricultural households in 23-24 is estimated around rupees 35,940, while the PCI in the country is 1,84,205. Clearly, there is a huge disparity between the national PCI and the PCI in agricultural households. Of course, the reliable data about rural economies income and per capita income is not available with us. I think the chair also pointed it out. Now, leaving aside the large farmers, which are just 8.3 lakh out of 14.65 crore operational land holdings, as per 2015 agricultural census, and unfortunately, we have no agricultural census after that till date. Of course, we learned that it's probably in the progress. The PCI of all other farmers, per capita income of all other farmers is much lower than the national PCI. Significantly, marginal and small farmers, which constitute 86%, some say, as per the latest data, it has gone even up to 92%, do not have adequate farm income even to move above the so-called poverty line, which is Tendulkar's poverty line. This necessitates supplementation of farm income with non-farm income, which is possible only by occupational diversification in the agricultural as well as rural economy. Now, nearly 2/3 of the total workers of India are employed in the rural economy, but are sharing a much lower share in the country's GDP. The disparity in per worker productivity between urban and rural workers ranged from threefold to 3.5-fold during 70-71 to 2011-12. In the absence of comparable data for the later period, it is difficult to say whether this gap has increased or decreased, but the disparity is certainly very, very high. The rural area in general is lagging behind the urban areas in terms of social and physical infrastructure. The literacy rate in rural population is far below the urban population. Clearly, boosting agriculture and rural economy is sine qua non for India to be Viksit Bharat. That inter alia would require the development of rural non-farm sector and thereby generation of adequate employment for surplus agri workforce. This would be possible by raising budgetary allocation to agriculture and rural development. However, the budgetary allocation to agriculture since 1991 has been oscillating between 2 to 4% and that of rural development between 3 to 6%. Clearly, the budgetary allocation to agriculture and rural development is too low in comparison to their share in employment and income, even lower than the agricultural growth rate or non-agricultural growth rate or aggregate growth rate of the economy. Capital formation is the other important determinant of growth and development. Here too, agriculture is far below the gross capital formation and the gross capital formation in the economy. During the last 20 years, barring a couple of years, the GCF in the economy has been between 30% to 37% of the gross value added of the economy. Compared to it, GCF in agriculture has been hovering between 2 to 3% of the gross value of the economy. The share of public GCF in agriculture remained stick to 0.4% of economy's GVA. Besides, the share of agriculture in total GCF of the economy has also been very low, between 7 to 8% during the last 25 years, while during 1970s and 1980s, it was more than 14%. Significantly, the share of public sector's GCF in agriculture was quite high in 70s and 80s, but thereafter it was 4 to 7%.
Professor, I request you to wind up in a minute's time, probably.
Yeah, sure,
Please.
I'm going to. Now, all of us are all aware that Mahatma Gandhi's quote is still relevant. India lives in villages and is thus still relevant and highlights the importance of rural development, agriculture, and empowering rural communities. Way back in 1947, while acknowledging the importance of agriculture, Jawaharlal Nehru said, "Everything can else wait, but not agriculture." And to conclude, I would like to say that along with non-farm employment, the development of agriculture and rural, along with non-farm development, the development of agriculture and rural economy is equally essential for India's navigation to developed economy. It is in this context that the government would have to give high priority to agriculture and rural economy, both in terms of budgetary allocation and gross capital formation. Of course, Marega has already been discussed by the chair and the Professor Sekhar also, and I have all the doubts that it will attain the stated objective because states are already under serious financial crunch and states, this will further get a hit. So with this, I'll close. I'll later, if there is any point, I am here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor. You have added a few points to what your previous speaker was talking about. The comparison of per capita income of agricultural labor to the countrywide per capita income is something many of us have missed it. If you have some analysis on that, because what you are saying is per capita income of agricultural labor, I think you would have taken GVA of agriculture divided by the population dependent on agriculture, right? Which stands around 38.
No, not by population, but by the workforce, the size of the work households.
Workforce, okay.
Size of the household.
Okay, by size of the household.
Household, yeah.
Okay, so in that case, because what you are saying is 35,000 to 1,80,000. That is the countrywide per capita income. It
Pardon?
is about 1/6.
35,940
Yeah, to
in
1,80,000.
23-24.
Ah, so your
Yeah.
comparison shows that it is about 1/6. So
Yeah,
if you
yeah,
are,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, I
yeah.
mean it's
This is hard
a different
data.
revelation we are having at this
I have
time.
not coined it. I have updated. Panagraya's article in EPW is there, and
Okay.
latest 2025 article is there, and I have worked out from that. I have updated Tendulkar's
Great,
poverty line.
great. If you have some analysis on that, it would be nice if you share with all of us, really. This is
Of
really good to
course,
see.
I'm speaking from this.
Thank you. It will be
This
really
is
good.
this is
And your
really
point
very
of
revealing.
rural sector lagging behind the urban sector is well taken, and therefore more allocation is required. Here, I would like to relate to what Professor Sekhar was talking about. Is it because we are making a lot of hype at the time of budget announcement, but in reality, we are not spending enough? Is that the reason? Okay,
Yeah.
now let us move on to Professor Sridevi. Please come.
Yeah,
Yeah, please.
a very good afternoon, and thanks to IMPRI for organizing this talk. I'll basically focus on the gender-related aspects in the budget. Then I'll move on to the more discussed employment guarantee program. The budget speech, if we look at, it names women alongside farmers, youth, scheduled caste, and the scheduled tribes as a intended beneficiaries of the development. But if we look at the previous years, sustained economic growth over the last decade and a vibrant economy and related market mechanisms have been, they're not able to meet the challenges of ensuring various securities to the gender specific securities. If I talk in terms of health, food and nutrition security, or in terms of the higher wages or low level of the discrimination, whatever it may be. Although the budget has proposed to establish girls' hostels in STEM education with one hostel in every district, which reduces the barriers to women participation in the higher education. And the most importantly, they are talking about the she marts, which are considered as the basically provide an entrepreneurial ability to the women through the self-help groups, and the new community basically owned retail centers of the SHs, and which will be selling the products and improve the branding and access to the markets, basically enabling them to move beyond the credit-based income to the entrepreneur ownership. And the most importantly, the talk is the rise in the funding of the 20% for the Deen Dayal Antodaya Yojana, or the national NRLM program, basically in the budget. But the question is, although we announce these certain programs, how are they actually implemented? The budget also talks about the housing forms the single largest component of the women specific spending also under the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. And the largest rise in the budget is for this program. So while ownership of housing can enhance security in terms of the asset holding, but can it actually give the empowerment to women in terms of the controlling the financial resources or the decision making at the household level? And although we all know that Deen Dayal Yojana NRLM program has played a significant role in mobilizing the women into SAGs, expanding financial inclusion and the stabilizing household incomes. But again, the question is, women are not the homogeneous group, and they're heterogeneous group. All the social groups are actually inclusive in the SHs, because the micro level studies reveal a different kind of the outcomes from the different studies from the different states. So how are we able to address the inclusivity within these programs is the larger question, because even now certain social groups are left out without inclusion, either in accessing the higher education or the healthcare or having the better nutrition security. Because if you look at the NFHS 5 or the recent employment data, it very clearly shows that the females coming from the scheduled tribe and the scheduled caste households have the higher level of the anemia or the nutritional security, I mean, in terms of the malnutrition. So how are we actually, because last budget also we have raised these questions, but we are not able to see a very a progressive result in terms of the certain social groups. And the previous panelist has already made it very clear that there is an increase in the female labor force participation in the agriculture sector. Is it they're entering into the agriculture by force because they do not have any other alternatives, or is it or the family pushes them to get into the agriculture? Even if you look at the new employment program, what we are calling it as the G Ram G, although the Hindu article and the various other articles which were published immediately after the budget allocation, all of them very clearly says that 95,000 crore is not at all insufficient income, because they require at least 2.3 lakh crore, even with the given 60-40. Then who are actually we are trying to employ with these guarantee schemes? Are we able to create the employment at the minimum wages for the females? Because on an average per day is coming around the rupees 355. So without addressing the question of the gender discrimination in the labor market and gender justice in terms of the equity, equality, with the rise in the allocation to the certain programs, does it actually lead to the empowerment of the women? Because the women-centric programs on paper, they will be existing, but what is the status of the implementation? Or what is the status of the implementation towards the various special programs mentioned to the social groups is the another question. So in this context, my larger question is, what about the unpaid female labor, or what we are talking about, the time poverty for the females? And when we look at the time poverty for the females, the largest group who enter into the time poverty is the scheduled caste and the scheduled tribe women. So the gender responsive budgeting, although we have been talking about India as practicing the gender responsive budget, but since few years we see that India not practicing gender responsive budget in its substantive sense in terms of providing the empowerment or in providing the greater wages or access to the labor market to the females. With this, I'll just stop it, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Sridevi, for sticking to the time. I have a small observation here because the topic of this unemployment scheme is coming, guarantee scheme is coming up. When we look at the budget allocation of 95,000 crore from the center, I believe it does not include state share. So
No.
assuming that this will constitute 60% of the total outgo on account of this would mean that it appears if you are having certain baseline assumptions, that is, we are talking about 8.65 crore job card holders, active ones, and average cost per person per day is around 355 rupees. If this is what we are looking at, then probably we are looking at 52 days in a year as opposed to 125 days. This is the rough,
Yes.
they call back of envelope working that comes out. So this is an important aspect we need to keep in mind, and therefore the question of sufficiency also comes up. Now we'll move on to the next speaker, Professor Purvi Thangaraj.
Yes.
Yeah,
Hello.
please go
Hi,
on. Yeah.
everybody. Good afternoon. I'm very grateful to be invited for this talk again. I'll try to keep my conversation short because I feel like a lot of the points have already been raised. And yeah, so this year's, so we know that the growth rate for the sector for India has been projected at 6.8 to 7%, 7.2%, but then the agriculture growth this year has actually, the first advanced estimates show that it has fallen down, and the budget came at a time when we assumed that because the growth has also fallen down, there may be a big push for agriculture, because obviously we know it employs 46% of the workforce, and it's still the backbone of the rural economy as well, which is 2/3 of the whole population of India. And so all our hopes were sort of quite high. And so the total budget outlay we got was 53.5 lakh crores. But of that, if we look at the rural agrarian sector, which we include in terms of subsidies and welfare programs, is around 6.7 lakh crores. So how we estimate this was based just on the Ministry of Agriculture and Allied, and as well as Ministry of Rural Development, fertilizer subsidies, which are all of that go toward agriculture, and as well as food subsidies, which are for the rural sector. And so we've assumed that at least 2/3 of that is going to the rural economy. So that comes out to be 12.6% just of the total budget. So obviously this seems like a sizable number on the surface, but the composition matters. As we've talked about, food subsidy alone is 2.27 lakh crore, fertilizer subsidies alone 1.7 lakh crore. So these are major chunks which are more in terms of subsidies and welfare, and not in terms of growth enhancing investments. And they are sort of safety net, and of course fertilizer subsidy helps with lowering input costs and improving productivity. But as such, there are more problems that are associated with that, which have been echoed in the economic survey as well. Again, I think we've done enough conversation about the employment generation schemes, with the new scheme as well as the Manrega scheme. Though the employment generation days have fallen, which is probably suggesting that the dependence has gone down. But with the new scheme, as we've discussed and spoken by many other speakers, that time will tell how the impact or outcome of these 1 lakh crore allocated to this will actually showcase. There have been, of course, few positive things in terms of support for diversification and livestock sector and fishery sector and everything. But there is, as even Professor Sekhar said, that the entire budget, if you see the revised estimate, the previous year's budgets aren't even being used. So that also raises a question of how efficiently the budget allocations are being utilized, and are they actually giving any impact. So I would like to talk about I would like to talk about agriculture R&D, which I'd written in my piece as well, that is one of the 4 most important things that help economies come out of, like, help with total factor productivity and all of that. So in India particularly, our agriculture R&D expenditure as a percentage of our GDP is less than 0.5%, and that has been a trend that has been going on for quite some time. And the fact that the budget allocation this year has reduced, and so obviously and that is like a very alarming thing, because this has long-term consequences, obviously, for yields, for resilience, for technological progress, for climate resilient agriculture, and everything. And there's work done by Professor Ashok Gulati in a book called Supporting Indian Farms the Smart Way, in which they estimate that, say, for every million that the marginal returns on investments and subsidies, that for every million spent on fertilizer subsidy, only 26 people are lifted out of poverty. But the same million, if it's spent on agriculture R&D and extension, 328 people are lifted out of poverty. And so the returns in terms of GDP also is much higher for agri R&D versus subsidies. So the whole budget year after year just continues to give money in the form of subsidies, but not in the form of actual income transfers that may be useful for the farmer, which would also help them reduce probably the negative consequences of excessive use of fertilizers, which would lead to low soil organic carbon or groundwater contamination or nitrous oxide emissions, which in a changing climate are also growingly increasing, and something that will be affected the most by farmers, because they are the ones that are going to be at the receiving end of it, though one would argue that they are not the ones causing it as much, but they will be the first-hand receivers of those issues. So our suggestions would be that to realign these subsidies and welfare, mainly subsidies and safety net, which was in terms of food subsidy also, that somebody had mentioned that the angle should be moving away from just staples of rice and wheat. You're giving a paddy farmer rice and you're giving a wheat farmer wheat, but it should move to a nutritional food basket, which would also help improve their nutrition. And realigning fertilizer subsidy, which even the economic survey had a lot to say about, that it has a lot of issues with the current system, and obviously the government is trying to move it to a direct income transfer with AgriStack and Jam Trinity and all of that. So that, and they are doing pilots in 4 states. They have begun the process and trying to figure out the issue with tenancy and everything. So the government is sort of trying to move in the right direction, and it is a hope that in the coming years that agriculture and rural economy would not just get incremental sort of budgets, and would actually get like a really good long-term strategy and plan of how to help the rural economy move out of the issues that it is facing. Thank you.
Thank you. You have flagged off an important point, that we should realign subsidies to welfare measures. This is very important because welfare has been the driving force for our budget formulation for ages. At least the post-independent history tells us. And we had been achieving a lot more growth because our budget had remained as welfare-centric. Thank you for highlighting this point. Now, Dr. Javed, you are there?
Yes, I am here.
Yeah, please.
So thank you so much, IMPRI and Arjun, for inviting me. And like many points have been already covered under like this rural development subject. So here, I will be focusing more on the Panchayati Raj side. That every year this occasion is to take the stock of the new announcement, and then announcement in terms of policies, in terms of like budget allocation. But at the same time, we also see the budget utilization as well. And since union government has like greater responsibility in terms of funding to the development programs, so we do like all focus on the union budget. But at the same time, state budgets are also very much important, because gradually the fund sharing mechanism is changing, and lots of uh, funding responsibilities are being taken by the states government. So in this budget here, I would say that for rural development, especially the Department of Rural Development, the budget allocation is same. I think even usually we see that over the years that government has always tried to at least increase 10%, which is also not there actually. So even if we see the the inflation, so even taking into consideration of the inflation rate, even it was expected that the allocation will increase, like at least 10%, which has not happened. Major programs which we have, under rural development. So except, like this new scheme, where, money was put, but even, like our previous panelists have raised many concerns. And I would say here that, still the new act came, but many challenges, has remained, and we have not tried to address even, like in new act. So earlier, delay in wage rates, and then, the wage rate, and then other, implementation issues remains. As far as allocation is concerned, so we have increased the number of days, but we can't say that this amount is going to be sufficient. And the objective of this act will is going to be fulfilled. I would say that the we are relying on the wage employment program, but at the same time, self-employment program and NRLM is there, and it has not got the due attention in this budget. And even Gram Sadak Yojana is also has not received any attention from the uh, finance minister on this budget, which was very important for rural connectivity. And I think we all are must be have connection with the rural area. So this scheme has worked a lot for economic mobility, income generation. So I think I would say here that this budget has disappointed in many ways. And if I would say that rural development ministry department is also running the social assistance program. So that is also very important for the social security, social protection of old age people, for disabled people, and also for widows. And then there are two more programs which should have been given adequate budget, because all the responsibilities we have left on the state governments, and the amount we are giving, though we claim that we are going to be Viksit Bharat by 2047, but the amount we are giving to these communities, which is 300, and not more than 300. So it is a kind of injustice on these communities. So broadly, this department has crucial role to play, but it was not given the due attention in this budget. Further, when we see the the Ministry of Panchayati Raj budget, which is also very important ministry, but gradually the role of ministry got declined. And in this year, we have a very little budget for this ministry and only one scheme. It is very unfortunate. Like we are going to close the Gram Swaraj Abhiyan, I think, very soon, which was meant for the strengthening the Panchayati Raj system, and also, uh, the, like awareness and capacitation on the sustainable development goals. So the Ministry of Panchayati Raj supposed to do some advocacy for greater devolution for the local governments, but day by day the ministry's role is weakening. So I would say that this ministry should have been given adequate attention in this budget. Further, we all know that the Sixth Finance Commission has devolved, the fund to the local government, and we have seen some increase. And this time we don't have much conditionalities, but yeah, one condition is there: the performance of the local government and state government. But I would say that, yeah, the local, the previous finance commissions were also asking for, betterment of the own source revenue, then audit and accounts, and it's an ongoing process. But we have not invested much in the system. So whatever we are talking, we are talking that institution should be strengthened at the local level, so that we can improve the, local rural development in the local areas. But in that way, it is not happening. So, many things should have been improved, so far, because we have been talking the same issue again and again. And especially the, states in the North India, and especially the local government in the North India, they need adequate support, and also some kind of advocacy from the central government for greater devolution of power, and also some untied fund and role in the centrally sponsored schemes. But center is also trying to, curtail the power of the local government through DBT. So these are major challenges, but efficiency of utilization can be improved only when we involve, in the local governments, and they will have decentralized planning and local budgeting. And since we don't give them fund, devolution is not happening. So everything is centralized. So here I will, conclude. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Javed, for highlighting yet another important point. Whether the kind of allocation what we see for Ministry of Panchayat Raj system, right? Is it weakening that institution of Panchayat Raj itself? That's a very important question. I think many of us who look at rural realities may not see this way, but it is very nice of you for having brought up this particular point. The moment we begin to weaken Panchayat Raj, then what will happen is we are going into more of centralized way of governance. Now, is that desirable, or do we have to have a local body local body in the sense having a local institution which is more answerable to villages, right? It's a very important point what you have highlighted. Now, let us take all these issues in our when we have some common forum. Now, let us move on to what Professor Amarender Reddy has to say. It's over to you, Professor.
Hello?
Yes, please.
I am audible. Yes, thank you for inviting me. I just scrolled through some few slides on agricultural sector. Basically, we all already discussed, but just to give glimpse. So this budget must mainly with a main focus, at broader level, Yuva Shakti. They concentrated on Yuva Shakti, and also government sankalp focus on poor, underprivileged, and disadvantaged. Mostly these are all related to agriculture, rural development. All these things will also comes in. And reforms expressed since the last 10 years, government of India is telling that reducing burden, compliance burden and all. So that also applicable to agriculture sector. Three kartavyas as in the budget mentioned. The last one aligned with vision of sabka saath sabka vikas, because rural and agriculture are mostly related to inclusive growth. In this, increasing farm incomes, that is the main focus of government of India since beginning, through the productivity increase and entrepreneurship. It is also agriculture, rural development, fertilizer, food processing, altogether nearly 6 to 7 lakh crores. They are contributing. They are, as already discussed, they are, together 12 to 13% of budget. So this high value crops, they allocated say 350 crores support to high value crops like coconut, cocoa, cashew. I think if you say, if you take a much broader, budget allocations 1.2 to 1.4 lakh crore, in that it's a very, just 350 crores for high value crops. Probably it's a, it's signaling rather than the real, outlay for this horticultural or nuts. It's only just giving a signal, because if you see the last two, three budgets, mostly they concentrated on oil seeds, technology mission on oil seeds, technology mission on pulses, some mission on millets. So these 3 4 years they continuously directed those, they are much broader crops. They are occupying more 30 40% of the acreage, pulses, oil seeds, and millets. But these high value crops probably the niche areas, they are not economically that significant to influence much larger population. That is the issue. But still, this budget gave the direction. Again, if you see the budget allocations, revised estimations 2025-26 and 26-27. So agriculture, Department of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare 6% growth. But most importantly, Department of Agriculture Research and Education reduced by 3%. And within Agriculture Research and Education, I will show the components, which components are reduced later on. But most importantly, as I already shared, Department of Fisheries 59% increase. But even the base year, just even now also 2,762. It's a very minor. And Department of Animal Husbandry Dairy, it is also 6,000. It increased, 16%. Total, it's a 6% increase in the agriculture and allied sectors. So animal husbandry, the main focus is in incentivizing growth sector. Within agriculture sector, we know the high value crop, fruits, vegetables, nuts, and also animal husbandry, fisheries. These are all the growth sectors growing at more than 6% per annum. So they want to concentrate in the growth sectors. They are also contributing, for example, animal husbandry is contributing significant amount. It also helps in women farmers and all these things. As earlier speaker Sekhar sir mentioned that loan linked subsidy schemes, different schemes, veterinary colleges, giving science based or technology based institutional development. Boosting allied sectors, again, this peri-urban, rural peri-urban initiatives like credit-linked subsidy programs, scaling up or modernization of livestock. Because if you see the ordinary farmers, they're generally having 2 to 1, 2 or 3 cattle per household, farmer household. If you want to modernize, if you want to scale up, at least to internationally competitive level, at least one farmer should have 10 to 20 cattle per farmer household. So that way, this budget is giving direction, because the budget is not enough to focus on. Of course, this is the agriculture, livestock, everything is state subject that we have to take into account. And encouraging livestock FPOs, creation of livestock, dairy, poultry focused integrated value chains. And also fisheries, 500 reservoirs, local farm, local village ponds or some, that larger ponds they want to, develop as a fishing centers, fishing FPOs, women-led growth. So these are all some of the technological. You see the digital agriculture, of course, many about 80%, 90% percolation of this IT, the smartphones are there still. I think larger ecosystem is not yet prepared to take into this Bharat Vista type of, because I saw agricultural offices at local level 20 years back, 10 years back, and now most of the state governments are going into DBT type of transfers, and there is no distribution of implement. There is no technology dissemination manually or physically going into field visits and all these things. Now there is nothing. You should, I went to these same agriculture officers 10 years back or 15 years back. Most of them are physically going into the farmers field. There is a good and vibrant agricultural extension system. I know agricultural extension and farmers linkages are much higher, but somehow that missing link is there. I don't know whether the Bharat Vistar can cater that reduce this gap. It is little bit doubtful. And also the support of Indian fishermen, all these things we have already discussed, duty-free imports for export of seafood, and also enabling environment easy of doing business that we are seeing last, if you compare 10 years back and now, lot of road infrastructure, lot of transport facilities, lot of market infrastructure also, little bit developed, little bit improved, little bit technology savvy. No refrigerated facilities are there in some of the markets, not all. There is some improvement, visible improvement. And also this will indirectly contribute to the productivity or farmers' incomes and all these things. These are all good initiatives. Easy of doing business. Again, these things will be contributing indirectly, not directly. And medicinal and aromatic herbs, this Ayush, under Ayush, lot of scope is there. Urban, especially urban centers like Mumbai, Delhi, all these consumers are preferring to Ayurveda or herbal-based type of products. Lot of potential is there, especially peri-urban areas. This focus is also, in the budget. Exemptions already discussed. I don't want to go into these details. So self-help entrepreneurship, again already discussed. These are all budget. Urea subsidy, it is 1.12% increase urea subsidy, whereas potash, phosphorus and potash fertilizer subsidies reduced significantly, and organic fertilizer subsidies also reduced. But on the other hand, government of India is pushing a lot of organic. Organic agriculture, bio inputs, and all these things. But to commensurate with the intent of the government, the budget allocations are little bit less when compared to the intent. This again, as you know, these are all the revised estimation, comparison between revised estimates and budgetary estimates. Both food subsidy and fertilizer subsidies reduced. Fertilizer subsidies reduced significantly by 8%. So again, there is not much change in the other schemes. They are all more or less intact. Not much change in the design. Especially, there is a lot of scope for the improvement in the design of the schemes. I saw a soil health card scheme or a Paramparagat Krishi Vikas Yojana, organic agriculture schemes. Both are very, intent is good. But if you go to the grassroots level, the implementation is very poor. And they want saturation, soil health card 2017-18, but on paper, on record, they are saturated. If you go to portal also, their soil health card portal also, it's saturated. But because the state governments are implementing the scheme, but it is the central government is reimbursing the money spent on the soil health card scheme. So they just mentioned that we have 100% completed targets. But the really central government who are dispersing the budget, they are not going into the field and they are not verifying. This situation is mostly applicable to most of the central sector scheme in agriculture, especially because agriculture is the state subject, state government is implementing, whereas the central government is disbursing the money. Disbursement is just based on the target achieved type of thing, tick mark type of thing, not actual going into field. So that things are very problematic. We have to improve the design of the programs if you want to having lot of impact at grassroots level. Not much change in different schemes, budgets. Again, as I mentioned, Matsya Sampada Yojana fisheries increase is there. The otherwise there is no much increase. Price stabilization fund, the fund itself is very much.
Professor, will you wind up, please?
Yes, right. So this MG Narega one we are mentioning. So 2 month pause because anyway, if you go to the field level, 2 months, 3 months pause is there in peak season. It is just putting in a written document, but otherwise it's already implemented. Another thing is 100 to 125 days. So 125 days is useful in most backward areas where the other agriculture employment is not there. So these type of things we have to consider. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you so much for highlighting, for bringing up a lot of statistics from the budget. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Now, organizer, now how many more minutes we are left with? Ms. Sana?
So we have probably 30 more, 15, 20 minutes more.
15. Okay.
Yeah, 15, 20.
So now, now it's open to the floor. If there is any question, probably we can take up.
The floor is open for Q&A session. If any of the participants have any question, they can raise their hand or type the question in the Q&A box or chat box.
Chair, can I just add one comment?
Yes, please go on.
In fact, this is in relation to Professor Gummadi Sridevi's point, which she raised about women who are entering agriculture. Are they actually entering because of distress, or is it some other reason? I mean, she raised this issue. So there is recent research. I think I urge all of you to see the recent paper by Professor B.N. Golder and Suresh Chandra Agarwal. This is a paper on is productivity of unpaid female family workers in Indian agriculture very low. This is the title of the paper.
In EPW, right?
Yeah, in EPW.
Yeah,
recent discussion. And before that, a paper by Mullah Arif and myself, where the title of the paper is Productivity in the Shadows, Productivity of Female Unpaid Family Workers. So in both these papers, there's a lot of very empirical evidence where we have collected analyzed data from PLFS and SAS. And what it shows is that the women who are into agriculture are not in any way of low productivity category. Their productivity is more or less equal to the paid workers, female workers in other sectors. I mean, for details of methodology, and we can have difference on that. But the point is, there is some evidence, empirical evidence coming, which says that the female workers entering into agriculture are not low productivity workers. So this I wanted to just make sure this point, just to refer you to those that recent literature. Yeah, that's it. I think.
Yes, thank you.
So if any of the participants...
Any comments, any question?
Yes, sir, you were saying something. So if any of the participants have any comments or any questions to ask from our experts, please feel free to ask. You can raise your hand or you can type your question in the Q&A box or chat box as well.
Okay, there is no question, then something related to what Professor Sekhar was talking about. I would like to pose a question to Professor Sridevi, whether she has done some work on that. Generally, you are talking about exclusion of women from certain social groups, right? You are questioning that inclusivity, right? Saying that women from certain social groups are being left out. And also, you also made a point related to female participation in agriculture, right? This is something we have been also noticing it, right? Now, is it something to do with migration of male laborers in search of, more of semi-skilled jobs, let's say in construction sector, in urban areas? Or is it, and therefore it is something like demand driven, or is it something like which women are forced to enter into? Right. Do you have any kind of anecdotal evidence, if not anything coming out of government statistics?
One of our study, that studies basically with reference to the food and nutrition security, not directly related to the agriculture productivity. In 3 of the rural villages, basically. We find that the female labor, I do agree with Professor Sekhar that we are not questioning the productivity levels of the females. The productivity levels of the females is higher in majority of the sectors also. But the question is why female labor force is entering largely into the agriculture sector with the lower wages, basically. Because it's the composition of the female labor who are entering into the agriculture sector is also now different. Previously, it is mostly we used to assume that illiterates or the primary level educated females are entering into the agriculture, but we also see now the females who are having the high school level education but still entering into the agriculture. One, as you said, the majority of the male members of the household are migrating to the nearby cities. So the family stays in the villages and the female members are entering into the agriculture. And some of them hold a small land also. But if there are some alternative employment provided to these females, then their income levels will be much higher. And the second question, I want to respond is that when Telangana was formed, because Professor Amarender Reddy is also here, the first, one of the welfare program was that the scheduled caste women who do not have any land will be given a certain land for the productive purpose. But although they identified many households, but a few households in some of the districts were given. And one of the study in Telangana, basically in Nalgonda district, they found that the females who have this land, they could see a transition after the 3 years, because this land was used for the floriculture or the horticulture product purpose, and they were started sending their children to the school. There is a change in the allocation of the resources. So my major question is that being agriculture labor as a paid and unpaid labor, does it give them any kind of the financial empowerment or the allocation of the resources at the household level? And what is the impact their children or the next generation will be having on it? Because when we are talking about the inclusivity by 2047 Viksit Bharat, it is also important that socially excluded groups must be included, and that is where the intergenerational mobility also plays an important role. That is what my question was basically not to question the productivity levels. Productivity levels of the females are much higher, and wherein we see that there is a large discrepancy in terms of the wage discrimination. Even with the labor force data also, we find in the regular wage work also, we find the wage gap basically. And occupational discrimination is anyway existing in the Indian context in all the sector, agriculture to service sector also. So it is largely questioning the mobility of the female to the different sectors. Thank you.
There is a question post
Yes,
in the
sir,
chat box.
we have one question from Mansoor Hussainji, who says the budget to agriculture research and education has been reduced. Will not it impact the advancement of agriculture?
So, can I take?
Yeah, Professor Amarender.
Yes. Actually, even National Institute of Agricultural, Agricultural Economics and Policy Research, New Delhi, NIAP, they also estimated that per 1 rupee of investment in agriculture education, agriculture research and education, there is a 13 rupee return. 1 rupee to 13 rupee return. Whereas in roads, in other, for example, fertilizer subsidy, other things also they have estimated, they are very less, 5, 6, 3 or something like that. This agriculture research and education is 13. So definitely it will reduce the advancements in the technology adoption in the agriculture and consequently productivity. And moreover, this recent budget, the allocations within the agriculture research and education, the allocations to social science is reduced. Social science, economics, extension is reduced. That is a little worrying because we need a lot of awareness about, say, for example, GM crops, policy issues are there. Still, Pesticides Act, these are all things still, they are not, other, even Bangladesh, countries like Bangladesh, China are advanced, they are using a lot of advanced technologies. We are struggling with whether we are to use the gathering evidence of GM crops, whether socially beneficial or not, all these things, we are not yet able to study all these things. And most of the technologies are within the, laboratories. So this social science research, we have to increase more budgetary allocation so that there is a proper link between lab to the land, lab to the farmers. So that social science research are very, very important, whereas, budget is little reduced. This overall long-term impact may be there in much higher level.
Okay. Now, I would request all the panelist members to give your last words. Maybe in about minutes time, you can summarize your views as to how the budget is going to enhance rural welfare, keeping in mind the change in the rural unemployment guarantee scheme. Professor Sekhar?
Yeah, I think this year's budget has been largely conservative without much focus on either investment or increasing the investment. It appears that the government, or at least the central government, is probably counting on the states to do more rather than taking the initiative themselves. So to me, it appears largely conservative. And as Dr. Ram, I want to add one point to what Dr. Amarender Reddy said about the extension part. I think most of the whatever little investment is being made in the research and education, it is mostly done on the production technology side and the developing new varieties. But taking them, dissemination and extension is very important part. If you see scheme after scheme after scheme, the awareness of about those schemes and the benefits of those schemes and programs is very, very low for all the schemes. So social science research, particularly the extension part, is very weak, and still there is not much attention paid to that. So overall, it's not a very ambitious budget. It's a very conservative. And about the G and the employment aspects, I still keep my fingers crossed because we'll have to see how this will unfold.
Thank you. Professor Ghuman?
Yeah, myself.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. In fact, what I see is budget is a ritual. Every year is being presented because government cannot spend a penny without this. Second, over the period of time, the budgets has inclined to more and more private participation rather than public investment. Particularly if I take agriculture, public investment in agriculture has declined over the period of time, and now it's going to be further declined because which the figures of the budget show. As far as GRAMG is concerned, I have already said the it is going not to going it has changed the from right based employment to demand based employment. I think that is the weak point in it, and the states will not be able to finance the 40% contribute 40% of its contribution because of resource crunch. I think this again, whatever be the name, it should be in the framework of 19%, 10% of the states, because until and unless the state's allocation divisible pool is not enhanced, it's very, very difficult for the states. And I would rather suggest, I think, though it's not in the domain of budget, but in the divisible pool, cess and surcharges must be included in the divisible pool so that states can get more share in the taxes, all that. Thank you.
Thank you. Professor Sridevi? She's not there. Yeah, please. Yeah.
Yeah, as I already said that the India's gender budget treats women primarily as recipients of the welfare rather than as agents of economic transformation. So the procedural recognition has improved, but the substantive equity remains limited for the gender and the various other social groups. So the budget needs to be more inclusive in terms of providing better welfare gains, although we see that over the years, the budget seems to be moving from the welfare-oriented approach to the rights-based approach, but still there is a large gap exist between the different social groups and the gender, so that needs to be addressed in the due course. Thank you.
Thank you. Next one is, Miss
Purvi.
Purvi.
Yeah, hi. So my last view would be that with the right mix of investments in R&D, infrastructure, and markets, value chains, this can become a powerful engine for inclusive growth without this drastic shift opposed to incremental changes that are happening. We'll just continue to manage rural distress than actually overcome it. And yeah. Thank you.
Dr. Javed?
So, like my final comment will be on, like we should see the budget of the rural development, like from the lenses of marginalized communities. And I think it has been raised, by my previous panelist. Since, like I do work on scheduled caste sub-plan and tribal sub-plan. So many, Dalit and Adivasis are not getting adequate benefit, though they like Manrega and, like other schemes. So I think we should see that. And about the land purchase thing, I agree with that Andhra and Telangana, they were having the good scheme. And then final thing is that this, fund sharing mechanism will is definitely going to affect Manrega, because I have the experience in other schemes as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Dr. Amarender?
Yes, actually, this budget is a continuation of the earlier budget. Earlier budgets they have done this pulses mission, technology mission, oil field sector technology mission, millets mission, and this budget is more of an intent. They have not allocated larger budgets for livestock and other things, but they put some intent there. regarding this, Jerome G, I think all other speakers, I agree with them. The state contribution is a bigger question mark, especially for Chhattisgarh, Orissa, some backward states where the budget constraint is bigger. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So, with the permission of the organizer, I'll also take a minute to just to highlight few things. One is what is coming out very clearly from the discussion that we had is what we normally call it as promises versus realities. What happens is, so each time when our budget is announced, we see a lot of hype is being made out about the budget is for it's pro poor or pro farmer or pro rural sector, etc., etc. But at the same time, what has been highlighted in our discussion is the actuals is very much falling short of budget estimates. So there is a serious gap between promises and realities. So that is one thing I'm noticing here. But if somebody takes up it and comes up with very good analysis centered around this aspect, it would be really a ready reckoner for many to understand to what extent the way rural realities are being addressed in the budget. Second aspect that I'm seeing that is coming out of the discussion is how the institutions are getting weakened because of reduced budgetary allocation. Dr. Javed had mentioned about Ministry of Panchayat Raj, which is very important insofar as the rural sector is concerned. And Professor Amarender and Professor Sekhar, they had talked about reduced allocation to education, research and education in agriculture, right? And moreover, all the speakers there is a consensus as it emerges that a major challenge insofar as implementing J Ramji is concerned is how the state is going to fund its obligation, particularly when the 16th Finance Commission has, like what Professor Ghuman said a short while ago, right? Particularly when the state's share remains intact, remaining unchanged at 39%. 49%. Sorry, 41% remains unchanged at 41%, same as what has been allocated under 15th Finance Commission. And that too, when a few major components of tax like cess and surcharge are kept outside of these taxable shareable resources. So with these few comments, let us bring this session to a close. Thank you so much to Dr. Arjun for organizing this, and to all the members of staff at IMPRI. Thank you so much on behalf of the participants as well as the panelists and my own behalf. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. So we are deeply grateful to all our panelists for this insightful discussion, and thank you to all the participants who have raised pertinent questions today.
Yeah,
So
let
before
me
we,
also thank the panelists for bringing out different insights.
yeah.
Thank you so much.
And so before we move to formal vote of thanks, would you like to give any closing remarks?
You're asking me?
Sir, would you like to give any closing
No,
remarks?
no, that's fine. I have said it.
Thank you, sir. So with this, I would like to proceed to a formal vote of thanks. As we conclude this panel discussion on rural realities and Union Budget 2026 and 27, I, Sana Ansari, on behalf of IMPRI Center for Habitat, Urban and Regional Studies, New Delhi, extend my heartfelt gratitude. Our deepest thanks to our chair and expert for today. Thank you all our esteemed panelists for the insightful and thought-provoking addresses. Your expertise and perspective have greatly enriched today's discussion and provided us with valuable takeaways on this critical topic. We deeply appreciate your time and contribution. We thank all our participants who have joined us live today, raised important questions, and contributed to today's dialogue. For those who watch later on YouTube or listening via podcast or reading our publication, we deeply value your engagement and interest. We hope you will continue to join us for future IMPRI Web Policy Talk and Web Policy Learning programs. Wishing you all a great afternoon ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This one.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. Have a nice day. Thank you.
Thank you.